He stood close enough to erase space. Not rushed, not careless. Close enough for Vivian to feel her breath change before she meant to. Her body responded first, a quiet lean forward, subtle, honest. Luke noticed. He did not move. His hand hovered near her waist. Still. Open. Waiting for permission that never came. The room held them in silence. No distractions. No reason to speak. Vivian felt the pull rise without warning. Warm. Clear. Stronger than she expected. She wanted him to close the gap. Wanted the certainty of contact. Wanted the moment to finish what it started. Luke's face shifted closer. Slow. Intentional. Not testing. Not forcing. Everything narrowed to the space between them. Time felt measured now. Every breath counted. This was not accident. This was choice approaching its edge. Luke leaned in another inch. Not enough to touch. Enough to change the air between them. Vivian felt it in her chest first. A slow pull. A steady heat. Her focus narrowed to his mouth, then his eyes. He watched her closely. Not hungry. Not rushed. Aware of every signal she gave. Her breath slowed. Her shoulders eased. Her body moved before she planned it. This was the moment where habit usually won, where attraction took control and excuses followed later. Luke could feel her openness. He sensed the answer waiting on her lips. His hand shifted slightly, still not touching, giving space for choice to speak first. Vivian knew this feeling. She had felt it before with other men. Moments that promised warmth and left cost behind. Her pulse stayed steady. Her mind stayed present. She did not step away. She did not close her eyes. She stayed right there, fully aware of what she wanted, fully aware of what it could take from her. The decision was close now, closer than his face. Vivian lifted her hand. Not fast, not unsure. Her palm pressed against his chest, warm through fabric, steady enough to stop him. Luke froze, not confused, not offended. He felt the meaning before the words came. She kept her hand there, grounded, certain. "This matters," she said. Her voice stayed calm, no apology in it. Luke searched her face, not for permission, for understanding. She met his eyes without flinching. "If you move closer," she continued, "you don't get to treat this lightly." The space between them returned, not broken, defined. Silence followed, not awkward, intentional. Luke did not reach for her wrist, did not explain, did not push. He took a small step back. That step carried weight, more than touch ever had. Luke held his position. No sigh, no tension in his jaw, no attempt to soften the moment with humor. He did not explain himself. He did not ask for more time. He did not step forward again. He simply nodded once. A small motion, deliberate, his hands lowered to his sides, open, visible, still. "I hear you," he said. Nothing added, nothing taken back. Vivian watched him closely now. This was where most men changed, where patience turned into pressure. Luke stayed where he was. He let the space remain intact. The quiet stretched, not uncomfortable, revealing. This was not restraint born from caution. This was restraint chosen freely. Vivian felt something shift inside her. Not relief, recognition. What he did not do spoke louder than what he could have done. Vivian lowered her hand. The moment did not collapse. It settled. Luke stepped back enough to give her space. Not distance. Respect. She exhaled slowly. Her body relaxed without regret. This was not rejection. This was clarity. That night stayed with her. Not because of what almost happened, because of what did not. She learned something important in that quiet pause. Desire speaks fast. Character waits. Luke had stirred something real in her. He knew it. She knew it. Yet he chose restraint when he did not have to. That choice rewrote everything that followed. He stirred her desire. But she chose dignity. And that choice changed everything. If you've ever protected yourself even when it felt hard, stay with this story. Like, comment, and share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Luke Harrison did not learn presence from books or mentors. He absorbed it at home. His father led without raising his voice. Meetings ended when his father spoke, not because he demanded attention, but because people leaned in to listen. Calm carried weight in that house. His mother moved through rooms with equal control. Never rushed, never seeking notice. She spoke when words added value, and stayed quiet when they did not. Luke watched both of them closely. He learned how restraint shaped authority, how stillness drew focus, how timing mattered more than volume. By the time he reached adulthood, those lessons lived in his posture. The way he stood without stiffness, the way he listened without interruption, the way his eyes held contact long enough to show interest, then released it without demand. People often mistook this for confidence alone. It was deeper than that. Luke understood how comfort worked. He never filled silence out of fear. He never rushed to explain himself. When he entered a space, he adjusted to its rhythm instead of forcing his own. At the private investment firm in Seattle, this presence followed him into every room. Senior partners trusted him quickly. Junior staff felt seen, not assessed. Luke did not compete for attention. He let attention arrive. Women noticed him for the same reason others did. Not because he pursued, because he seemed complete without needing response. That quality made people lean forward, made them feel chosen without being claimed. Luke never named this ability. He simply lived inside it. And without realizing it, he carried that same quiet control into every connection he touched. Luke never tried to be charming. That was the difference. He did not study reactions or adjust himself to win approval. He stayed where he was and let people meet him there. In conversation, he listened longer than most. Not with intensity, with ease. When someone spoke, he gave them room to finish. No interruptions, no need to redirect the topic back to himself. That habit built comfort fast. People found themselves sharing more than planned. Not secrets, thoughts, opinions, small truths they usually kept guarded. Luke responded with restraint. A short nod, a thoughtful question, a brief comment that showed he had been present the whole time. Charm followed naturally from that exchange. Not loud, not practiced. He smiled without urgency. He laughed without performing. He held eye contact without holding people in place. At work, this made him effective. Clients felt respected. Colleagues felt understood. Luke never leaned on compliments. When he gave one, it landed cleanly, because he used them rarely. With women, the effect was similar. He noticed without scanning. He acknowledged without signaling expectation. A glance held for a moment longer than required. A calm tone that carried interest without pressure. A sense that he was present whether the moment continued or ended. Many mistook this for intention. They assumed charm meant pursuit. Luke never corrected that assumption. He did not need to. His presence invited attention, but it never chased it. That distinction shaped every connection that followed. People often leaned toward him first. Luke simply met them halfway. Connections came easily to Luke. Staying rarely followed. He did not leave people confused or hurt. He also did not linger once a moment passed its natural end. Most relationships in his life followed a similar arc. A clear beginning, a comfortable middle, a quiet exit. Luke never promised more than he could give. He avoided dramatic starts. He avoided dramatic endings even more. When interest surfaced, he acknowledged it. When it faded, he stepped away without blame. People often expected pursuit. He offered presence instead. That difference shaped how things ended. There were no unanswered messages, no lingering arguments, no attempts to reframe something simple into something deeper. Luke left before expectations hardened, not out of fear, out of awareness. He understood how easily attention could be mistaken for attachment, how quickly warmth could turn into obligation. When a connection reached its limit, he recognized the shift. Conversation thinned, energy softened, curiosity stopped growing. Luke trusted those signals. He did not stay to see if habit could replace interest. He did not test whether comfort could become commitment. Some saw this as detachment. Others called it maturity. Luke never labeled it. He valued clarity. He valued choice. If something did not ask to be built, he did not build it. This pattern kept his life orderly. Clean lines. No emotional clutter. Yet it also meant something else. Nothing ever reached depth. Luke never stayed long enough to be changed. And until Vivian, He never questioned whether restraint alone was enough to hold meaning. Vivian Collins learned order before comfort. Her childhood followed a strict rhythm shaped by necessity. Mornings started early. Evenings ended with lists, not conversations. Her mother worked double shifts without complaint. Bills stayed paid because discipline stayed firm. There was no room for waste. No space for impulse. Vivian grew up watching effort replace luck. She learned how structure protected dignity, how preparation reduced risk. Feelings did not disappear in that house. They waited. Vivian learned to pause before reacting, to finish tasks before resting, to choose stability over excitement. That mindset followed her into adulthood. She studied urban planning with purpose, not for recognition, for function. Cities interested her because they reflected human priorities, where resources went, whose spaces served, how decisions shaped lives long after meetings ended. Vivian believed good systems reduced harm. She believed boundaries created safety. She believed intention mattered more than image. At work, she arrived early. She left on time. She prepared thoroughly. Colleagues described her as reserved, focused, hard to read. Vivian did not correct those descriptions. They kept distance intact. She dressed with care. Clean lines, no excess, every choice deliberate. Her presence did not demand notice. It earned trust slowly. Vivian carried herself like someone who understood consequences, someone who knew the cost of missteps. Desire was not unfamiliar to her. She simply refused to let it decide for her. That restraint defined her life, not because she lacked interest, because she valued what interest could threaten if left unchecked. Desire and structure lived in different places for Vivian. She felt both. She trusted only one. Desire arrived without warning, a look held too long, a voice steady enough to feel safe, a moment where attention settled and stayed. Structure arrived earlier. It shaped her days before desire ever had space to speak. Vivian did not reject wanting. She evaluated it. She had seen what happened when people followed feeling without framework. Lives bent under choices made too quickly. Plans unraveled under pressure that felt good in the moment. Structure protected her from that. It gave her room to think. It gave her power to choose. At work, this balance showed clearly. She could feel interest rise and still finish a presentation with precision. She could notice attraction and still keep her tone even. Desire asked for closeness. Structure asked for time. Vivian learned to let one wait while the other led. This did not make her cold. It made her deliberate. She believed interest deserved respect. That rushing diluted meaning. That boundaries clarified intention. When attraction surfaced, she slowed everything down. She watched behavior instead of words. Consistency mattered more than charm. This approach protected her. It also kept people at a distance. Most men lost patience when pace slowed. They mistook restraint for rejection. They moved on quickly. Vivian accepted that outcome. It filtered for character. She did not know yet how rare it was for someone to stay present without pushing. She had never seen desire meet patience without conflict. That was about to change. Their first meeting felt ordinary on the surface. A conference room filled slower than scheduled. A delayed presentation. Seats taken without intention. Vivian arrived on time, as she always did. She scanned the table once and chose an open chair near the middle. No preference. No signal. Luke noticed the stillness beside him before he noticed her face. She settled without noise, opened her notebook, waited. The meeting began with routine updates, numbers, timelines, projections. Vivian listened fully. No phone, no side glances. When her turn came, she spoke without clearing her throat. Her voice stayed level. Her points landed clean. She framed risk without drama, outlined impact without exaggeration, offered solutions tied to outcomes. The room shifted its attention toward her. Not sharply, gradually. Luke watched the shift happen. He did not interrupt. He did not add commentary. He noticed how she spoke only when needed, how she stopped once the point was made. After the meeting ended, people gathered their materials. Conversations broke into fragments. Luke stood at the same time Vivian did. They walked toward the door without planning it. "You framed that risk well," he said. Simple. Direct. Vivian nodded once. Data does most of the work. Luke smiled. You gave it direction. She paused, turned her head just enough to meet his eyes, held the look for a moment longer than necessary. Then she walked on. Luke remained still. That pause stayed with him longer than the meeting itself. Luke did not follow her. That choice mattered more than he realized at the time. Surface attraction would have pushed him to keep pace, to add another comment, to turn the moment into momentum. He did none of that. Instead, he returned to his desk with her words still active in his mind. Not her appearance, not the brief exchange. Her clarity. He respected how she entered the room without seeking space, and still claimed it. How she spoke with confidence without excess. How she left without waiting for reaction. That respect changed the nature of his interest. Luke had felt attraction many times before. This felt different. It slowed him down. He paid closer attention in the days that followed. Not in obvious ways, in small observations. How Vivian listened more than she spoke. How she acknowledged colleagues without overfamiliarity. How she exited conversations once they lost purpose. Luke adjusted himself instinctively. He did not lean on charm. He did not initiate unnecessary contact. When they crossed paths, he kept greetings brief, polite, neutral. Vivian noticed this shift. She expected most men to test boundaries once interest appeared. Luke did not. That absence of pressure stood out. Respect replaced assumption. Curiosity replaced impulse. Neither named it. Neither rushed to define it. They moved through the same space without forcing overlap. Yet awareness settled quietly between them. Luke found himself thinking less about what he wanted, and more about who she was. Vivian felt less guarded when she sensed no demand behind his attention. Something steady began to form. Not attraction built on urgency. Interest built on recognition. Curiosity grew quietly between them. Not through messages, not through planned encounters. It formed in passing moments. Shared elevators where neither reached for conversation first. Brief greetings that carried awareness without invitation. Small acknowledgments that stayed professional. Luke never created reasons to cross her path. He let proximity exist without exploiting it. Vivian noticed the restraint. She noticed the absence of pressure more than the presence of interest. That absence allowed her to observe him freely. How he treated assistants with patience. How he listened during meetings without asserting dominance. How he held his position without reminding others of it. Luke noticed her habits in return. Her consistency. Her preparation. Her refusal to seek validation. Neither tried to accelerate what was forming. This pace allowed curiosity to deepen without distortion. It stayed clean, untangled from expectation. Vivian found herself wondering about his choices rather than his intentions. Luke found himself interested in her values rather than her attention. That difference mattered. They were not pulled together by impulse. They were drawn by alignment. This early stage carried no claim, no promise, no hidden agreement, only awareness. And awareness, when left undisturbed, has a way of growing roots. Pause and ask yourself, how often do people confuse attention with intention? Shared spaces changed how they noticed each other, not all at once. Gradually, it started with timing. Luke began to recognize Vivian's schedule without meaning to. The elevator she took each morning, the floor she exited on without hesitation, the way she adjusted her bag before stepping into meetings. Vivian noticed him too, not because he stood out, because he did not. He occupied space without dominating it. He waited his turn to speak. He moved through hallways with purpose, not urgency. They crossed paths often, never planned, never forced. Sometimes they exchanged a nod, sometimes a brief greeting, sometimes nothing at all. Those moments carried weight because nothing was demanded of them. The tension did not announce itself. It settled quietly. Vivian felt it when Luke stood nearby during meetings. A shift in awareness, a pull she did not act on. Luke felt it when she entered a room, and focus sharpened without reason. He noticed how still everything felt when she spoke, how silence followed her words instead of filling space immediately. Neither acknowledged this change. Shared spaces allowed observation without expectation. They learned each other's rhythms through repetition, not pursuit. Luke noticed Vivian's consistency. She arrived prepared. She left with intention. Vivian noticed Luke's restraint. He never angled for attention. He never tested proximity. This balance created tension without pressure, interest without claim. Nothing moved forward. Nothing pulled away. They stayed right there, close enough to feel awareness, far enough to keep control. That quiet tension became part of the space they shared. Unspoken. Present. Luke chose observation over movement. It was not strategy. It was instinct shaped by respect. He noticed how Vivian worked before he noticed how she looked, how she prepared questions in advance, how she listened fully, then responded with precision. When she spoke, Luke stayed quiet, not out of hesitation, out of regard. He watched how she handled disagreement. No sharpness, no retreat. She held her position with calm certainty. Luke felt interest grow, but he did not feed it. He let it sit where it was. In meetings, he did not angle his chair toward hers. He did not seek eye contact beyond what was natural. He did not add comments meant to impress. This restraint changed how he saw her. It shifted focus from attraction to understanding. Luke observed patterns, how Vivian paused before answering, how she weighed impact over approval, how she avoided shortcuts, even when they were offered. He respected the way she held boundaries without announcing them. When others pressed for familiarity, Luke did not follow. He stayed within the space she allowed. This choice slowed everything down. It removed urgency. It kept intention clean. Luke had learned long ago that movement created expectation. Observation created clarity. By not advancing, he allowed something else to form. Trust without agreement. Interest without obligation. Vivian noticed this too. She sensed his attention without feeling pulled. She felt seen without being claimed. That balance held. Luke remained where he was, present, aware, still, and in that stillness, interest deepened without being pushed forward. Vivian felt the interest before she named it. Not through words, through attention that stayed respectful. Luke's presence registered in her awareness more often now. In meetings, in shared corridors, in moments where silence settled naturally. She noticed how he listened when she spoke, not waiting to reply, not searching for advantage. That kind of attention was rare. Vivian recognized interest when it appeared. She had learned to read it early in life. The signs were familiar. Yet this interest felt different. It did not push. It did not rush. She acknowledged it quietly, then returned to her work. Holding pace mattered to her. It preserved clarity. It protected choice. Vivian had no intention of testing boundaries to see what might happen. She let behavior speak first. She observed Luke as carefully as he observed her. How he interacted with others. How he handled authority. How he responded when challenged. Nothing shifted abruptly. She felt attraction surface in small ways. A moment of awareness when he stood nearby. A calm warmth when their eyes met briefly. Vivian did not act on these signals. She let them exist without direction. Her discipline held. She understood how easily interest could accelerate into expectation. She refused to skip steps. Luke did not interpret her restraint as distance. He stayed consistent. That steadiness allowed Vivian to relax without lowering her guard. She held her pace because it told her more than movement ever could. Time revealed intention. Behavior revealed character. Vivian stayed where she was. Interested. Attentive. Unrushed. The project delay kept them later than planned. Most of the floor cleared out by evening. Lights dimmed. Keyboards went quiet. Vivian stayed at her desk, reviewing revisions line by line. She worked best when distractions fell away. Late hours sharpened her focus. Luke remained too, not because he needed to, because the work required it. They occupied the same space without acknowledging it at first. Separate desks. Shared silence. The quiet felt different at night. Not empty. Contained. Luke noticed how Vivian's concentration deepened. Her posture steady. Her attention fixed. He did not interrupt. He matched the pace of the room. Minutes passed. Then more. At one point, Vivian paused and leaned back slightly. Not tired. Evaluating. Luke glanced over, then returned to his screen. No comment. No offer. This absence of interruption allowed the moment to stay intact. The project demanded precision. They exchanged notes through shared documents. Clear, efficient, focused. When Vivian spoke, it was to confirm details. When Luke responded, it was direct. The late hour created closeness without intimacy, proximity without expectation. Vivian felt awareness rise again. Not distraction. Presence. Luke felt it too. A quiet alignment that came from working in sync. Neither addressed it. They finished one section together, then another. Time moved steadily. The night did not invite confession. It invited observation. In that shared effort, something settled between them. A sense of reliability, a trust built through action. They left the floor later than expected. Together, without comment. The project moved forward. So did their awareness of each other. The next evening unfolded with the same quiet demand. Deadlines pressed. Revisions stacked. The floor thinned again. Vivian stayed late without announcing it. Luke noticed without commenting. He stepped away from his desk once. Not toward her. Toward the break area. When he returned, he placed a cup near the edge of her workspace. Careful. Out of reach enough to avoid intrusion. "I brought extra," he said. Neutral tone. No expectation attached. Vivian looked up briefly. Met his eyes. Then the cup. "Thank you," she said. Luke nodded once and stepped back. No hovering. No explanation. That choice mattered. Coffee had been used before as an excuse. A reason to linger. A door opened with intent behind it. This was different. He did not sit. He did not wait for response. He returned to his work. Vivian resumed reading. She took a sip when ready. The warmth grounded her without shifting focus. She noticed how the moment passed without demand. No follow-up. No invitation hidden in courtesy. Respect showed itself in what Luke did not do. The room returned to silence. Not broken. Supported. Vivian felt the familiar pull again. Soft. Present. Contained. Luke felt it too. He recognized the awareness without feeding it. They worked through the next hour with ease. Aligned. Efficient. Calm. The coffee cooled. The work moved forward. What stayed warm was the understanding forming between them. Care without claim. Attention without pressure. Desire arrived quietly. Not as a rush. As awareness. Vivian felt it during small pauses. When she lifted her eyes from the screen and found Luke already focused elsewhere. When she noticed how calm settled around him without effort. There was no signal exchanged. No glance held too long. No excuse to close distance. Yet the feeling stayed. It lived in the space between their desks. In the way silence felt shared rather than empty. In how her attention sharpened when he stood nearby. Vivian recognized desire by how it changed her body first. Her breathing slowed. Her shoulders eased. Her focus narrowed. She did not name it. Naming gave it weight she was not ready to carry. Luke felt the shift too. He noticed how his awareness tracked her movement without intention. How her presence altered the room's rhythm. How stillness felt fuller when she was there. He kept his posture neutral, his tone unchanged. Luke understood desire well. He knew how quickly it could turn into momentum if given voice. So he did not give it voice. He stayed present without directing attention toward it. He let the feeling exist without permission to lead. They spoke only when work required it. Short confirmations. Clear updates. Nothing personal entered the exchange. Desire remained unspoken because neither invited it forward. They respected the boundary that silence created. That restraint gave the feeling shape without letting it take control. It stayed there, real, contained, and because it was not rushed, it did not fade. Restraint stopped feeling like distance. It started to feel like connection. Neither Luke nor Vivian spoke about what sat between them, yet both adjusted around it. Their movements softened, their timing aligned. They learned how to work near each other without crossing lines, how to share space without testing limits, how to let awareness exist without turning it into action. This mutual restraint created safety. Vivian felt it first, a sense that she did not need to guard every interaction. Luke never shifted suddenly, never pressed when silence appeared. Consistency replaced caution. Luke felt it too. the ease of knowing where he stood without asking, the relief of not having to perform interest to keep it alive. They trusted the pace because both were holding it. When meetings ended, neither lingered for reason. When conversations paused, neither rushed to fill space. This balance made every exchange cleaner, more intentional. They began to anticipate each other's rhythms. Luke adjusted timelines knowing how Vivian preferred preparation. Vivian structured reports knowing how Luke evaluated outcomes. Work benefited from this alignment. So did trust. Restraint stopped being effort. It became shared understanding. They did not need touch to feel close. They did not need words to confirm interest. Their connection grew because it was not pulled forward. It was allowed to settle naturally. This kind of bond carried weight. It was built through repeated choice, through patience practiced daily. Mutual restraint became the quiet force holding them together. Not excitement, not impulse. Something steadier. The shift happened without announcement. It began at the edges of work. A question asked after a task ended. A pause that lingered a second longer than required. A comment that reached beyond the immediate objective. Luke was the first to notice it. During a review, Vivian mentioned how certain design choices affected long-term access. Not as an aside, as a principle. Luke asked why she emphasized it. She answered without hesitation, because systems should protect people who never get a seat at the table. The room stayed quiet after that. Not because the point was heavy, because it was clear. From then on, conversations carried more weight. They still spoke about projects, deadlines, outcomes, but beneath those topics, values surfaced. Luke shared how he measured success beyond results. Consistency, accountability, impact over image. Vivian spoke about responsibility, why structure mattered, why boundaries kept work honest. These exchanges stayed professional. They did not drift into personal stories. They did not cross into familiarity. Yet, something deepened. They were no longer just aligned on tasks. They were aligned on why the tasks mattered. That alignment strengthened their connection without changing behavior. No late messages, no private meetings arranged, just clarity. They learned how each other thought, what each protected, what each refused to compromise. This shift marked a turning point. Interest gained depth without becoming visible. Respect grew roots. The pace remained slow. The rhythm stayed steady. No confession followed. No rush appeared. The rain began without warning. Not heavy at first. A steady fall that softened the edges of the city. The office emptied earlier than usual that night. Schedules shifted. People left with quick goodbyes. Vivian packed her bag and checked the time once. Later than planned. Still manageable. Luke noticed her pause near the elevator. Not uncertain. Calculating. "I'm headed that way," he said, keeping his tone even. "If you want a ride." Vivian hesitated. Not because of him, because moments like this carried weight. She looked outside at the rain pressing against the glass, then back at him. "All right," she said. The drive stayed quiet. Street lights reflected off the road. The sound of rain filled the space between them without forcing conversation. Luke kept both hands on the wheel, focused, unrushed. Vivian watched the city pass by. Her thoughts stayed present, not drifting, not guarded. She noticed how calm the ride felt. No shift in tone, no attempt to change the moment into something else. When they reached her building, Luke pulled over smoothly. The engine idled. The rain continued. Neither moved right away. The car held them in stillness, a pause that asked nothing but attention. Vivian felt awareness rise again. Clear, unavoidable. Vivian felt awareness rise again. Clear, unavoidable. Luke turned slightly toward her. Not fully. Enough to acknowledge the moment. The rain kept falling. The silence stayed intact. Something waited there. Not rushed. Not named. And for the first time, the choice ahead felt close enough to touch. Silence settled into the car without resistance. Not the kind that needed filling. The kind that held meaning. The rain carried the sound now. Soft taps against metal. A steady rhythm that slowed everything else. Vivian stayed still. Her hands rested in her lap. Her posture relaxed but alert. Luke did not reach for the radio. He did not speak to soften the pause. He let the quiet remain what it was. That choice gave the moment shape. Silence had always revealed more than words for Vivian. It stripped intention down to action. It removed performance. She felt her awareness sharpen, every detail clearer. The space, the timing, the way Luke turned just enough to show presence without pressure. Luke felt it too. He noticed how the pause changed his breathing, how his attention narrowed, how every movement now carried weight. This silence asked a question neither had spoken. It asked what they would do when nothing pushed them forward. Vivian had learned to trust moments like this. They exposed impatience quickly. They showed whether interest needed urgency to survive. Luke stayed steady. No shifting in his seat. No reaching across the space. No attempt to redirect what was happening. He let the silence do its work. Vivian felt something ease inside her, not desire. Trust. The pause became a shared decision. To stay present. To let awareness exist without turning into action. The rain blurred the outside world. Inside the car, everything sharpened. This was the space where many moments broke, where pressure appeared, where assumptions replaced respect. None of that happened. The silence held, and in holding, it revealed the care beneath their restraint. The shift came quietly, not from movement, from awareness tightening between them. Luke turned a little more toward Vivian, slow enough to give the moment time to speak back. He did not reach for her. He did not close the distance all at once. He leaned in just enough to change the space. Vivian felt it immediately, a pull that settled low and steady. Her breath adjusted before she noticed. Luke's posture stayed open. No urgency in his shoulders, no claim in his expression. This was not a test. It was an offering. He read her carefully, the stillness in her hands, the calm in her face. Luke knew this edge well, the place where interest turned into action, where timing decided everything. He leaned in another fraction, close enough for the moment to become real, not close enough to take control from her. The rain continued outside, steady and soft. Inside the car, the world narrowed. Vivian's focus stayed on him now, not on the choice, on the meaning behind it. Luke paused there, let the distance speak. He gave her space to step forward, or to stop him. This mattered to him more than the outcome. He had leaned in before in other lives, other moments, usually with confidence that the next step would follow. This time felt different. He stayed right there, balanced, present. The moment waited, and in that waiting, Luke showed something rare. He showed he was willing to let her decide what came next. Vivian lifted her hand before the distance disappeared. The motion was calm, measured. Her palm met his chest lightly, not to push him away, to stop time where it stood. Luke froze the instant she touched him. No surprise crossed his face. No frustration followed. He stayed exactly where he was. Vivian felt the warmth beneath her hand, the steady rise of his breath, the stillness he chose. This was the moment she had prepared for her whole life without knowing it. Not the closeness, the decision. She did not pull her hand back right away. She held it there long enough for meaning to settle. Her voice came out even. Quiet. Clear. "This matters," she said. Luke did not speak. She met his eyes fully now. No softness to invite persuasion. No sharpness to create distance. "I don't rush moments like this," she continued. "Not when they carry weight." The words landed without apology. Vivian felt the pull still there. Strong, honest. Stopping did not erase it. It defined it. Luke did not lean back yet. He waited until she finished. Her hand stayed steady. Her posture remained open. This was not fear speaking. It was choice. She lowered her hand slowly, not retreating, not closing herself off. The space returned between them. Intact, intentional. Vivian knew what this pause would cost. She also knew what it would protect. And in stopping the moment, she claimed it. Vivian let the quiet return before she spoke again. Not to soften the moment, to anchor it. Her voice stayed low, steady enough to carry truth without force. "When I step forward," she said, "I don't step lightly." Luke listened without interruption, his posture unchanged, his attention fixed. She continued, choosing each word with care. "I don't move because something feels good," she said. I move because it's right for who I'm becoming. The rain kept time outside. Inside the car, her words settled where impulse usually lived. This isn't about saying no, Vivian added. It's about saying yes the right way. She held his gaze. No challenge in it, no request. Moments like this shape what follows, she said. And I protect what I build. Those sentences framed everything between them. Not desire against denial, but desire guided by self-respect. Luke felt the weight of it, not as distance, as clarity. Vivian's words did not close a door. They set terms. She was not withholding. She was choosing. The moral stood plain in the space she created. Attraction could open a moment. Character decided whether it should continue. Vivian did not need him to agree aloud. She needed him to understand. She had said what mattered. She had drawn the line where dignity stayed intact. And in doing so, she defined the kind of love she would accept. Luke did not answer right away. Not because he lacked words. Because he chose care over speed. He eased back first. A small movement. Deliberate. It returned space without breaking the moment. I understand, he said. No defense followed. No explanation layered behind it. He did not frame her choice as hesitation. He did not rephrase her meaning to suit himself. Luke kept his voice even. Respectful. Clear. I don't want something built on pressure, he added. Or on timing that only works once. Those words carried restraint, not pride. They did not seek approval. They did not bargain. Luke understood how easily moments like this could turn into contests. Who wanted more? Who gave in first? He refused that framing. He did not reach for her hand again. He did not try to soften the boundary she set. Instead, he matched it. His shoulders relaxed. His breathing steadied. The choice he made was visible in what he did not do. He did not ask when. He did not suggest later. He accepted the moment as complete. Vivian noticed this immediately, not as relief, as confirmation. Luke's response showed discipline equal to her own. It showed he valued what she protected. Restraint, when chosen freely, carries truth. It does not announce itself. It stands quietly. Luke stood there in that choice, present, unmoved by ego, and in that response, he showed that her words had landed exactly where they were meant to. The moment did not fade when the space returned. It settled. Vivian felt it first. A quiet certainty taking hold, where doubt often lingered. Luke's response changed how she saw him. Not as someone managing interest, as someone capable of holding it without control. Trust grew from that stillness. It showed in what followed. The way he waited before starting the engine. The way he asked nothing more of the night. No awkward shift followed. No need to reset the tone. Luke started the car and pulled back into the street with the same calm he had carried all evening. The rain thinned. The road opened. Vivian watched the city pass again, but her attention stayed closer now. She felt no pressure to explain herself further. No need to guard the silence. Luke drove without glancing over. He respected the space she had defined. That restraint carried weight beyond the moment itself. It told her this was not situational respect. It was part of who he was. When they reached her building, Luke stopped where he had before. The car idled. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he said. "Nothing more." Vivian nodded. She felt steady as she stepped out into the rain. As she walked inside, she realized something had shifted. Not attraction, security. Trust does not arrive loudly. It settles after a choice proves itself. That night marked a line neither of them would cross lightly again, because it had been drawn with care. And once trust takes shape in that way, it does not loosen easily. The change showed itself the next day, not in words, in pattern. Luke did not text to revisit the night. He did not reference the moment. He did not try to define what had not been claimed. At work, everything stayed clean. Meetings followed the same structure. Communication stayed professional. Boundaries remained intact. Yet something subtle shifted. Luke became more intentional with distance. He gave Vivian space before she asked for it. He redirected conversations before they drifted too close. Not avoidance. Consideration. When schedules overlapped, he adjusted his timing. Not to disappear, to remove pressure. Vivian noticed this immediately. He did not treat her differently in public. No formality added, no warmth withdrawn. Respect stayed steady. Luke also held himself to a higher standard. He avoided private settings that could blur lines. He kept interactions transparent. This mattered more than any promise. Vivian understood the weight of behavior chosen without request. It meant the message had landed. It meant he valued what she had protected. Trust does not grow through reassurance. It grows through consistency. Luke proved he could hold interest without needing reward, that he could honor a boundary without being reminded of it. This changed how Vivian felt around him. Her guard softened without dropping. Her presence relaxed without surrendering control. The moment in the car did not define them because it almost became something else. It defined them because of what followed. Choice revealed itself after desire stepped back. If respect ever changed how you saw someone, tap like and stay with us. They chose public places on purpose, not to perform, to stay grounded. Dinner happened midweek, after work hours, in restaurants that favored conversation over atmosphere. Tables spaced wide enough for privacy without isolation. Lighting soft enough to relax without hiding anything. Luke arrived on time. Vivian arrived prepared. There were no assumptions attached to the invitation, no signals beyond shared interest and respect for pace. Conversation unfolded easily. They spoke about work only briefly, then let it go. Food arrived. Time slowed. Luke asked thoughtful questions, without steering them toward intimacy. Vivian answered honestly without offering more than she intended. They laughed in small moments. Nothing exaggerated. Nothing forced. The public setting mattered. It removed pressure. It kept choices visible. Vivian noticed how Luke never leaned too close, never lowered his voice to create secrecy. He stayed exactly where he was. Luke noticed how Vivian relaxed when nothing was implied. Her posture softened. Her focus stayed present. Desire did not disappear in these dinners. It sat quietly beneath conversation. What grew instead was ease, the comfort of being seen without being pulled. Public dinners became their rhythm, a space where connection could form without crossing lines. Clarity arrived early in their time together. Luke did not let ambiguity do the talking. He understood how silence could confuse when interest existed. Over dinner, he stated his intention without framing it as a promise. "I want to get to know you," he said, without rushing. Without crossing what matters to you. No flourish followed. No attempt to sound convincing. Vivian listened carefully. She measured intention by tone as much as content. Luke did not lean forward when he said it. He did not lower his voice. He did not wait for approval. He spoke as if clarity was a responsibility, not a strategy. That mattered to Vivian. Clear intention gave her room to respond honestly. "I'm here because I want to be," she said. "But I move slowly." Luke nodded once. "That works for me." No negotiation followed. No timeline suggested. They returned to their meals without tension. The conversation continued as if nothing heavy had been placed on the table. Yet something shifted. Intention, once stated, removed guessing. It replaced anxiety with structure. Vivian felt steadier knowing where he stood. Luke felt relief knowing he had not hidden behind implication. This clarity did not speed things up. It made patience easier. Desire stayed present. It no longer needed to lead. Honesty became their anchor. Not confessions, not disclosure for effect. They spoke plainly. Vivian asked questions that reached beyond routine. How Luke handled disagreement. What responsibility meant to him when no one was watching. Luke answered without shaping himself to sound impressive. He chose accuracy over polish. He admitted where he had been careless in the past, not with names, with patterns. "I stayed comfortable," he said, "longer than I should have." Vivian did not judge the admission. She listened for awareness. She shared how structure kept her steady, how clarity helped her stay aligned with herself, how she valued peace over intensity. Their honesty stayed measured. Each truth placed carefully. Nothing used to rush connection. They did not fill silence with reassurance. They allowed pauses to exist. That space gave their words weight. Luke noticed how Vivian spoke without softening her values. She did not apologize for needing time. She did not explain her standards as defenses. Vivian noticed how Luke received honesty without redirecting it. He did not argue. He did not minimize. These conversations built trust quietly. They revealed alignment without forcing closeness. Honesty became the ground they stood on. Steady, unforced. Luke spoke in lessons, not memories. He avoided details that turned reflection into display. He focused on what he learned, not what he lived through. When something feels easy, he said once, I ask whether it's honest or simply familiar. Vivian listened closely. This told her more than stories ever could. Luke explained how he learned to value consistency over intensity, how short connections taught him what comfort could hide, how walking away early felt cleaner than staying without intent. He did not name people. He did not revisit moments. He spoke about responsibility, about how attention carried weight, even when nothing was promised, about how leaving things undefined could still leave marks. Vivian appreciated this restraint. It kept the conversation grounded. It avoided comparison. Luke did not present himself as reformed. He presented himself as aware. That awareness changed how I move, he said. It slows me down. Vivian felt the truth of it in his tone. Not rehearsed, settled. By sharing lessons, Luke showed respect for the present. He did not bring past shadows into the space between them. That choice built trust without demanding closeness. Vivian spoke about boundaries the same way she spoke about work. Calm, direct, without defense. I don't explain my limits to be understood, she said. I explain them so they're clear. Luke listened without interrupting. She described how boundaries gave her freedom, how knowing where lines stood allowed her to stay present without fear of drift, how pace protected meaning. Vivian did not soften her words. She did not justify why she needed time. She did not frame her standards as reactions to past mistakes. These are choices, she said. They keep me aligned. Luke nodded once. No questions followed that tried to bend the edges. Vivian continued, unhurried. I don't test limits to see how someone reacts. I watch how they respect them. That sentence carried weight. Luke received it without shifting. He did not reassure. He did not promise. He understood that boundaries asked for behavior, not words. Vivian felt steady saying this aloud. Not exposed. Grounded. Her clarity removed the need for caution. It replaced it with trust, built on transparency. Explaining boundaries without apology changed the tone between them. Nothing felt withheld. Nothing felt negotiated. Desire stayed present, but it stayed where it belonged. Behind choice. The second private moment came without planning. No invitation carried weight. No setting hinted at outcome. They were finishing dinner when the rain returned, light this time. Luke walked Vivian to her building. They stopped under the entryway, sheltered, unhurried. The space felt familiar now, not charged, aware. They stood side by side, not facing each other, close enough to feel presence, far enough to keep choice intact. Vivian noticed the quiet first. How easy it felt. How nothing pressed for more. Luke noticed the same ease. He felt desire surface again, steady and clear. He did not act on it. They spoke briefly about the evening. What stood out? What stayed? Then the conversation paused. Naturally. Luke turned slightly, acknowledging the moment without stepping into it. Vivian met his eyes. The pull returned. Recognizable. Honest. This time, the pause did not feel new. It felt understood. They stayed there, letting the moment exist without direction. No test. No move. That stillness proved something important. They could be alone together, without needing to resolve the feeling. The moment passed without loss, and that mattered more than anything that could have followed. Vivian spoke before the space could shift, not abruptly, with calm certainty. I want to stay right here, she said, her voice steady, her posture open. Luke did not move. Vivian met his eyes. She did not step back. She did not add explanation. This pace matters to me, she continued, and I won't trade it for closeness. Her words carried no tension. No fear of loss, only alignment. She felt desire still present. It had not disappeared. It did not need to. Saying no again did not weaken the connection. It clarified it. Vivian had learned that repetition revealed truth. The first boundary tested interest. The second tested respect. She watched Luke carefully. Not for reaction, for consistency. Her no was not rejection. It was protection. She stood where she was, allowing the moment to settle. She did not fill the pause. She did not soften the edge of her choice. This time the boundary felt lighter, more natural, less guarded. Vivian knew what she was asking for, and she knew what she was willing to wait for. Desire stayed present, but control stayed stronger. Luke did not hesitate. He nodded once, not as agreement, as understanding. "Thank you for saying it clearly," he said. No tension followed his words. No disappointment surfaced. No effort to soften the moment. He stayed where he was, did not reach, did not lean closer. Acceptance showed itself in restraint. Luke understood what consistency demanded, not patience spoken aloud. Patience practiced. He did not ask how long. He did not suggest a different pace. He did not treat her no as something to manage. He respected it as complete. Vivian felt the steadiness of that response, not relief. Confirmation. This acceptance deepened the connection more than closeness could have. It proved that interest did not depend on access. That desire could exist without urgency. Luke stepped back slightly, restoring space without distance. He wished her good night without lingering. As Vivian went inside, she noticed how grounded she felt. Not torn, not conflicted. Consistency showed itself in small choices. Luke made the right ones without being asked. The promotion arrived without warning. A shift announced in a brief meeting. New responsibilities. Expanded oversight. Luke accepted it without celebration. He listened. He asked questions. He acknowledged the change with calm focus. Vivian felt the shift immediately, not in his behavior, in the structure around them. Luke's role now touched her department directly. Decision lines moved. Visibility increased. What had been equal ground now carried weight. Vivian did not panic. She did not assume intent. Vivian did not panic. She did not assume intent. She assessed impact. Power changes relationships even when nothing else moves. She understood that well. Luke noticed the distance form in her posture that day. Not withdrawal. Awareness. He did not rush to address it. He did not act as if nothing had changed. The promotion altered the environment, whether they spoke about it or not. Meetings carried different weight now. Recommendations held authority. Silence carried consequence. Luke felt the responsibility settle fully, not as advantage, as obligation. Vivian recognized the moment for what it was. A test not of attraction, but of integrity. This change would either weaken what they had built, or prove its strength. Vivian did not wait for tension to grow. She asked for a conversation the next morning. Not private, not dramatic. A glass-walled meeting room. Scheduled, documented. Luke arrived on time, notebook in hand. No assumptions carried in. Vivian spoke first. "This changes our working dynamic," she said. Her voice even, her posture steady. She did not accuse. She did not soften the point. "Your role now holds influence over my department," she continued. "That means clarity matters more than comfort." Luke listened without interruption. Vivian laid out her concerns clearly. Decision, overlap, perception, fair process. "I won't operate in spaces where intent can be questioned," she said. Even when intent is clean. She did not ask him to fix anything. She asked him to acknowledge reality. Luke nodded once. He understood what she was protecting. "Thank you for naming it," he said. "You're right." No defense followed. No reassurance meant to quiet the issue. They discussed structure, reporting lines, documentation, visibility. Vivian felt steadier as the conversation closed, not because power disappeared, because it was addressed directly. Luke left the room with clarity, not wounded, focused. This was the first real pressure point, and it was met with honesty instead of avoidance. Luke acted the same day, not quietly, not in fragments. At the next leadership meeting, he addressed structure before assignments were discussed. His tone stayed calm. His language stayed precise. "I'm stepping into a role that touches multiple teams," he said. "That means process matters." He outlined reporting lines clearly, decision pathways, documentation standards. When Vivian's department came up, Luke spoke with the same distance he used for every other team. No warmth added, no caution layered in, He named a deputy to review any item that crossed departments. Not as a favor, as a safeguard. This protects the work, he said, and the people doing it. The room accepted the clarity. Notes were taken. Standards set. Luke did not look at Vivian during the explanation. He did not signal alignment through glance or pause. Public boundaries mattered because they removed interpretation. They made fairness visible. Later that week, Luke repeated the same structure in writing. Shared access, clear timelines, no exceptions. Vivian noticed the consistency immediately, not because it favored her, because it did not. Luke had placed the boundary where it belonged, in the open, where behavior could be measured. This choice removed doubt before it could form. It proved that respect was not situational. Consistency showed up in small decisions. Luke reviewed proposals using the same criteria across teams. Timelines stayed uniform. Feedback stayed documented. When Vivian's work crossed his desk, it moved through the same channels as everyone else's. No side notes. No verbal follow-ups. He asked questions in meetings, the same way he did with other leads. Direct. Specific. Grounded in outcomes. Vivian noticed the discipline immediately, not because her work stalled, because it did not receive special lift. At one point, a senior manager suggested Luke fast-track a recommendation tied to her team. Luke declined. "We follow sequence," he said. "It keeps decisions clean." The room accepted it and moved on. Later, when Vivian requested resources, Luke routed the request through procurement like any other department. No shortcuts, no private approvals. This approach removed pressure from both of them. It allowed Vivian to lead without doubt. It allowed Luke to act without conflict. Favoritism often hides in tone and timing. Luke removed both. What remained was fairness that could be tracked, measured, trusted. By refusing to bend process, Luke protected more than reputation. He protected the work. And in doing so, he showed that respect did not depend on closeness. Transparency became non-negotiable. Luke made sure every interaction tied to work stayed visible. Meetings were scheduled through shared calendars. Notes were recorded and circulated. If Vivian's team needed clarification, Luke answered in group threads, never privately, never after hours. He avoided closed doors when discussion involved her department. He chose rooms with glass walls. He invited a third voice when decisions carried weight. This was not caution driven by fear. It was discipline driven by principle. Vivian felt the effect immediately. Nothing felt hidden. Nothing required explanation. Secrecy often breeds pressure. Luke removed the conditions that allowed it. Colleagues noticed the pattern. Questions were answered openly. Processes stayed consistent. When conversations drifted toward speculation, Luke redirected them calmly. "We keep work visible," he said. "That protects everyone." Vivian did not need to defend herself. The structure did it for her. This openness allowed her to relax into her role. She could focus on outcomes instead of perception, on leadership instead of protection. Luke's choices made the environment safer, not quieter, clearer. Trust grows when nothing needs to be hidden. And in removing secrecy, Luke proved his respect extended beyond private moments into daily practice. Speculation appeared briefly, then lost momentum. At first, it moved in low tones. Questions asked without names. Looks exchanged without conclusion. People noticed proximity before structure took hold. They filled gaps with assumption. Luke did not respond to any of it. He did not correct rumors directly. He did not deny what was never claimed. He let consistency do the work. Weeks passed with no private meetings, no sudden approvals, no visible shifts in treatment. Decisions stayed documented. Processes stayed intact. The absence of irregularity drained the stories of energy. Nothing fed them. Nothing confirmed them. Vivian noticed the change in tone around the office. Conversations returned to work. Focus moved back to outcomes. What people cannot trace, they stop repeating. Luke's behavior left no loose ends, no moments to reinterpret, no patterns to question. Rumors rely on contrast. They fade when nothing breaks form. Vivian felt relief, not because talk ended, but because she never had to address it. Luke never asked if she heard anything. He never reassured her about perception. He trusted the structure they had built. Silence replaced speculation, not because anyone demanded it, because nothing supported doubt. Pressure revealed what intention alone could not. Luke carried authority now. Deadlines tightened. Decisions drew scrutiny. Through it all, his behavior stayed unchanged. He held the same standards when work slowed and when it surged. He documented choices. He invited review. He accepted correction. Vivian watched closely, not for mistakes, for drift. None came. Trust strengthened because it was tested daily, not in grand moments, in routine ones. Luke did not ask for appreciation. He did not signal sacrifice. He treated integrity as baseline. Vivian felt the weight of that consistency lift something in her. She no longer monitored distance. She trusted it. Their connection did not weaken under power. It clarified. Pressure often exposes shortcuts. Luke removed them before they appeared. What remained was steadiness. Reliable. Unshowy. Vivian understood now that respect was not situational for him. It held under observation. It held under authority. That knowledge deepened trust beyond attraction, beyond patience. It proved something lasting could exist even when circumstances changed. Comment: if you believe respect matters more when power enters a relationship. Luke chose a quiet moment. No event, no timing meant to impress. They sat across from each other after dinner. The table cleared, the evening settled. Nothing waited to interrupt them. "I want to be clear," Luke said. He did not soften the words. He did not dress them up. "I'm not here out of habit," he continued. "I'm here because I choose you." Vivian listened without reacting. She had learned that clarity mattered most when it arrived without pressure. Luke kept his tone steady. "I want something built slowly," he said. "Something that holds under time, not just feeling." He did not reach for her hand. He did not lean forward. "This isn't a moment," he added. "It's a direction." Luke stated his intent without framing it as a request. He did not ask for agreement. He did not wait for reassurance. He offered the truth and left space around it. Vivian felt the weight of that choice, not because it demanded response, because it respected her freedom to choose. Intent, spoken this way, carried no pressure. It stood on its own. Luke stopped speaking once his intent was clear. He did not add reasons. He did not explain why he would be good for her. He did not list what he could offer. Silence followed, and he let it. This was where persuasion often appeared, where reassurance turned into pressure. Luke refused that step. He stayed where he was, hands relaxed, posture open. Vivian noticed the absence immediately. No leaning in to sway her. No softened voice meant to guide her answer. Luke did not try to manage the outcome. He respected her agency enough to let uncertainty exist. Persuasion, he knew, created imbalance. It turned choice into response. He had already said what mattered. Anything more would shift weight onto her. Vivian felt the difference. She was not being convinced. She was being trusted. That trust gave her room to think clearly, to feel without being pulled, to decide without urgency pressing from the other side. Luke's restraint showed discipline deeper than desire. He valued consent, rooted in clarity, not momentum. The moment stayed balanced because he kept it that way. No persuasion followed, only presence. Luke did not ask for an answer. He did not check the time. He did not frame the moment as fragile. Urgency stayed out of the room because he kept it there. "I don't need this decided tonight," he said. Simple. Final. Those words removed weight. They returned choice to where it belonged. Vivian felt the shift in her body first. Her shoulders eased. Her breathing slowed. Urgency had taught her to rush before, to decide under pressure and sort meaning later. This felt different. Luke did not act as if waiting cost him something. He treated patience as part of the choice itself. They returned to conversation without circling the topic. No tension, no suspended breath. The evening continued in its own rhythm. Shared observations, small laughter, comfortable pauses. Luke did not follow up with reminders. He did not signal expectation through tone or glance. Time moved forward naturally. Vivian noticed how freedom changed the way she felt. Desire stayed present. It did not spike. Urgency often disguises fear of loss. Luke showed none. By refusing to rush the moment, he showed confidence in what they were building. And that made waiting feel safe. Vivian did not decide in the moment. She let days pass. Routine returned. Work stayed steady. Luke did not change during that time. No checking in. No quiet reminders. That steadiness mattered. Vivian paid attention to how she felt in the absence of pressure. Desire stayed. It did not fade or demand action. She noticed how often her thoughts returned to Luke without being pulled there. Not as longing, as alignment. She trusted that signal. When she spoke, it was unforced. Clear. Complete. "I'm choosing you," she said. Not because she was persuaded. Not because time ran out. She explained her choice simply. "I feel safe deciding this without losing myself." Luke listened. He did not celebrate. He did not move closer. He acknowledged her choice with respect. "I'm glad," he said. "And I'm still here the same way." Vivian felt the freedom in that response. Her choice stood on its own. It was not absorbed or claimed. Choosing him freely changed how everything felt. It was not a step taken under momentum. It was a direction chosen with clarity. That difference carried weight. Intimacy did not arrive as a rush. It arrived as recognition. The first closeness followed a quiet evening, no build-up, no heightened moment meant to carry it. They stood near each other, familiar now with the space between them. Luke waited, as he always had. Vivian stepped forward this time. The difference mattered. Her movement was unhurried, certain. Luke met her where she was, not ahead of her. His hands stayed gentle. His attention stayed steady. Nothing felt taken. Everything felt offered. The closeness carried weight because it was chosen after trust had settled, after boundaries had held, after behavior proved itself. Vivian felt present in her body without losing clarity. She did not brace for aftermath. She did not measure the moment against fear. Luke felt the meaning in the timing. Not triumph. Gratitude. They stayed connected without needing to define what came next. They let the moment stand on its own. Intimacy, when it arrived this way, did not ask for more. It did not pull forward. It did not erase what came before. It fit. And because it fit, it deepened what already existed instead of replacing it. Nothing accelerated after that first closeness. Luke did not assume access. He did not change the pace to match desire. They kept the same rhythm they had built. Dinners stayed simple. Conversations stayed honest. Vivian noticed how little shifted. Not disappointment. Relief. Rushing would have rewritten the meaning of what they shared. It would have turned choice into momentum. Luke understood this instinctively. He let intimacy settle instead of expand. They took time between moments. Time to return to themselves. Time to notice how the closeness felt afterward. Vivian appreciated this restraint more than the closeness itself. It showed that what mattered was not escalation. It was continuity. Luke stayed attentive without hovering, present without pressing. They spoke about everyday things, plans, work, small observations that anchored them in normalcy. Nothing needed to be proved. By not rushing, they protected the trust they had built. They allowed meaning to deepen naturally. Intimacy remained part of their connection, not the center of it. That balance kept both of them grounded. It let choice remain active instead of assumed. What they shared belonged to the present. It was not borrowed from loneliness, not pulled from past patterns, not shaped by what either of them lacked. Vivian felt whole within herself as the connection deepened. She did not abandon routines. She did not adjust values to maintain closeness. Luke stayed grounded in the same discipline that had guided him from the start. He did not seek validation through proximity. He did not lean on her presence to feel complete. This mattered. Borrowed intimacy often asks for repayment. Attention, assurance, control. What they built asked for none of that. They chose each other from a place of stability, not hunger, not fear. Their bond grew because both could stand alone without it. That independence strengthened the connection instead of threatening it. Vivian felt no pressure to perform closeness. Luke felt no need to secure it. They moved forward without losing themselves. Act 6 closed with clarity. Choice remained at the center. Impulse stayed secondary. What followed would not be built on urgency or lack. It would be built on two people who chose with intention and stayed true to themselves. Time settled around them the way it always does when choices hold. Nothing about their story ended loudly. There was no single moment that demanded attention, no gesture meant to mark an arrival. What lasted was quieter than that. Luke and Vivian moved forward with the same steadiness that had brought them together. Days unfolded. Work continued. Life stayed full. Their connection did not replace their identities. It stood beside them. Looking back, Vivian understood how rare that was. How often people rushed toward feeling and called it meaning. How easily attraction could be mistaken for depth. Luke reflected on it differently. He saw how patience had taught him more than pursuit ever had. How listening had reshaped what he valued. Their story did not stand out because of intensity. It stood out because of care. Nothing had been taken from either of them to make it work. Nothing had been compromised to keep it alive. That realization stayed with them, not as pride, as grounding. Some connections fade because they are built too fast. Others last because they are allowed to form. This was one of those. Attraction opened the door. Character decided whether anyone stayed. Vivian understood this with clarity now. Attraction had always arrived easily in her life. It was never the rare part. What proved scarce was consistency. The ability to remain steady when nothing was being gained. Luke had shown her that difference through action, not intensity, not charm. Character revealed itself in pauses, in moments where nothing pushed forward, in choices made without audience. Luke reflected on this as well. He had seen attraction spark and fade countless times. What changed him was learning how little spark mattered without substance behind it. Attraction invited attention. Character earned trust. One created movement. The other created safety. They learned how often people confuse the two, how quickly excitement is mistaken for alignment, how easily presence is confused with depth. Luke did not become valuable to Vivian because she wanted him. He became valuable because he showed up the same way when wanting brought no reward. That difference reshaped how both of them viewed connection. Attraction could start a story. Only character could sustain it. That lesson stayed long after the moment passed. Desire spoke early in their story. It arrived with warmth and pull. It asked for closeness. Dignity answered later. It asked for care. Vivian learned that desire did not weaken her. What weakened her was abandoning herself to keep it. She had felt desire many times before. What made this different was how she held it. She did not silence it. She guided it. Dignity did not remove wanting. It gave wanting direction. Luke learned something just as important. Desire could tempt him to move quickly. Dignity taught him when to stop. Holding back was not loss. It was respect made visible. They saw how easily desire could rush past meaning. How often people traded self-respect for closeness and called it connection. Their choice disrupted that pattern. Desire stayed present in their lives. It did not disappear. It matured. Dignity gave it weight. It slowed it down. It made it honest. They learned that desire asks for attention. Dignity asks for alignment. When both exist together, nothing needs to be taken. Nothing needs to be proven. That balance changed everything that followed. Listening shaped what they built more than words ever could. Luke learned to listen without preparing a response. He listened to pauses, to boundaries spoken once and honored after. Vivian learned to listen to behavior, not promises, not intentions stated under comfort. They listened when nothing dramatic happened, when days felt ordinary, when silence said enough. Listening kept them aligned. Luke paid attention to what Vivian protected, her pace, her work, her sense of self. He adjusted without being asked, not to earn closeness, to keep integrity intact. Vivian listened to how Luke responded when nothing pushed him forward, how he stayed consistent when choice remained open, how he respected space without withdrawing care. That listening built safety. It allowed honesty without defense. It made room for growth without fear. Love for them did not arrive through grand gestures. It arrived through attention given fully, through restraint practiced daily. They learned that listening was an act of respect, and respect, when sustained, became love. Not loud, not urgent, steady. Their story left one truth standing. Love does not begin with urgency. It begins with choice. Attraction will always arrive first. It is fast. It is easy. What follows decides everything. Character shows up when nothing is being asked. Dignity stays when desire wants to lead. Listening builds what excitement alone cannot hold. Luke and Vivian did not win each other through effort. They chose each other through restraint. They proved that care grows when pace is honored. That trust forms when boundaries are respected the first time. That closeness means more when it is never taken. Their story was not about perfection. It was about alignment. Two people willing to wait. Two people willing to listen. Two people unwilling to lose themselves for closeness. That is the lesson that lasts. Love works best when it respects who you are before asking for more. When it honors timing over impulse. When it protects dignity as carefully as desire. Subscribe to Love Tales with Mr. Easton for stories where love respects pace, choice, and self-worth.